Hi, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make that super classic, we'll call it a type of torta from Puebla that's called a cemita. Now, in another video, I've shown you how to make the classic buns to make it with their sesame seeds on the top of them and a very rich flavor. Now I'm going to show you how to turn that into a sandwich. And usually, I mean, there's lots of variations to it, but the most common one will be made with milanesa. So that is a crispy breaded piece of beef or pork or chicken. You can go anyways. I'm going to do beef to show you that. But then just imagine the other flavors that go. Lots of avocado, the pickled chipotles that they absolutely love in Puebla, and a big handful of shredded Oaxacan style cheese. It's a lot to do to make this delicious thing, but once you taste it, you're going to be blown away. So the classic breading that is used all over the world is flour with egg and then breadcrumbs. Now in Puebla, they will use the really fine breadcrumbs almost exclusively. You can do that, or you can follow my lead and to use the panko crumbs because I like it. I think the panko crumbs are just crispier. Now to the eggs, I am going to add a teaspoon of salt, and that will season this. Just use a fork to beat the egg until you see no more streaks of white and yellow, because remember, you're going to be dipping the meat in there. Now it's time to talk about that meat. What do we have for meat? So in an American grocery store, it's sometimes going to be called like a sandwich steak that you're going to buy. Top sirloin or something that is called a very thinly cut chuck steak. In any Mexican grocery store, you will be able to find this, the top sirloin or the chuck, that is used for making everyday steak tacos, say. Okay, so we've got the setup here for it. I've got my pieces now of the top sirloin. Now, you'll notice that this is about 1/8 of an inch thick. I mean, this is really thin. If you buy a sandwich steak and it's, say, 1/4 of an inch, you will want to pound it. You can pound it with several things. A meat pounder is the best thing, but I have occasionally, when I've been without one, used the back of a heavy pan to do that kind of thing. So we first will put this into the flour, and then I always like to shake off the excess flour, but we want to make sure that we've coated all parts of this. And then I'm going to put it into here, and that's when I usually will switch to a pair of tongs and flip it over. Again, you want to make sure that you have moistened all of that meat, all the flour that you see there. Then pick it up, let the excess egg drop off of it there, and then lay it into your breadcrumbs, but flatten it into the breadcrumbs. Now, usually you will be able to pick up with the amount of breadcrumbs that I've called for in this recipe, pick up some from the side and sprinkle it over the top. That's the easiest way to do this rather than trying to turn it over from the very beginning here, and then just press it. When you're in the market in Puebla and people are making their milanesas, you see them just really pressing the breadcrumbs into the thin pieces of meat. Okay, so we've got one milanesa here ready for the hot oil. I just have to do a couple more before we get him all fried up. I have heated about 1/2 inch of oil in a large skillet here. It's so shallow that it's really hard to determine the temperature with a thermometer. So I'm going to suggest that you do this visually. When there's a nice shimmer across the top of the oil, it's getting close to the right temperature for doing the frying of this. If it starts to smoke, you're way too hot. But I'm going to just pick up one of these milanesas. These are going to fry up really fast. So I'm going to pick one up like that, give it a test, and if it sizzles sharply when I put the edge of it in there, then we know that the temperature is about where we need it to be. Yeah, I think that's yeah, you don't want to see it any less sizzling around the edges than what I've got right here. About a minute and a half or so per side will be the right amount of time for frying these very thin breaded steaks. I just realized that some of you might not know what kind of oil I'm frying in. Well, I always go to the grocery store and look for the ones that specifically say for high heat use. That means they're refined in a certain way that their smoke point, meaning the point at which they will heat to a smoky look, is really high. So I like usually safflower oil, or sometimes sunflower oil will be refined for high heat cooking. That's what I'm looking for. And then when I put anything in to fry, I'm usually basting it always over the top with some of the hot oil, so it starts cooking on both sides and browns beautifully on both sides even before I have flipped it over. Basting is a good thing to keep in mind. Now back to the recipe.
Come back in 3, 2.
Okay, we've got one of these milanesas finished here. Look at that beauty. I'm going to drain it on paper towels and then sprinkle it with some salt and fry the rest of them. When these are finished, then I'm going to just keep these warm in a low oven. I am pulling apart this Oaxacan style string cheese, which is classic in the cemita compuesta, the turning the cemita bread into this finished cemita. We'll call it torta here. Now, I will say that this cheese is readily available across the United States and Mexican grocery stores. It'll never be quite as good as what I'm used to having in Oaxaca. But I have found one variety of it that you can buy on Amazon that is, the name of it is Real de Oaxaca. You would look for quesillo or queso Oaxaca, and it comes from Rancho Cucamonga in California. You can notice the difference in color here. This one is a really deep buttery kind of look. That's because it's made with richer milk. This is what I bought in a Mexican grocery store back in the meat section of and they already had it all pulled apart like this, and you just say, I want a pound of that. Sometimes you'll find it in the full rounds like this with all of the other cheeses in a Mexican grocery store. But look for one that's got some good flavor to it. Now, there are three things that separate the cemita from all other tortas. One, of course, is the bread, and I've already shown you in another video how to make the really traditional cemita bun. Second thing is the herb. This is pápalo. I've actually got a plant of it growing here because it's really hard to find in the United States, but perhaps in your Mexican grocery store you will find it. Now, it's a pungent herb, and some people like it and some people don't. The third thing that sets apart this particular torta is the pickled chipotles. And again, they're very easy to make. I've got recipes here on YouTube that show you how to do it. It really doesn't take very much time at all. Okay, but say you can't get those three things that make this perfect. What would you choose? So in place of the bread, I would recommend that you get a telera, the 3-humped bread. You might want to cut the ends of it off so that it's more or less about that same size. For the herb, well, I will tell you, in Puebla, there's a lot of people that either just leave it off or they replace it with a big handful of cilantro leaves. And certainly cilantro is readily available, so you could do that. The pickled chipotles, well, first of all, they're easy to make, and you can get the dried chili that they're made out of readily from almost any Mexican grocery store. But some people actually like to do pickled jalapenos and a whole lot of that. So let me show you how you layer this absolutely exquisite cemita poblana. So here's the bread. This actually just came out of the oven, so it's already crispy, but if yours is a day old or something like that, just re-crisp it. Now, the first thing that I'm going to put in here is avocado, and I will say that this is an avocado heavy dish. So I'll scoop out a half an avocado here, and I'm going to cut that into 8 slices. And we're going to start with 4 of them right down here on the bottom of the semita bun. Our next step here will be to put a little bit of salt over them and just a drizzle of olive oil. My favorite place in Puebla for semitas always puts that little drizzle of olive oil there. Now we have our warm milanesa. The res here, the beef, crunchy, coated it, so I cut it in half and laid it on there. The next thing that we'll put is a handful of this Oaxacan cheese, which sounds kind of funny for a Puebla thing, but they actually make the same style of cheese in Puebla, and it's an essential part of making this dish. So we will lay on more of the avocado here, like that, and a little bit of salt over the top of it, because you have to salt that. I'm going to take some of the pápalo leaves and lay them. Boy, just doing that has filled this kitchen with that super distinctive flavor of pápalo. And so we lay that on there. And now the chili. I'll take a couple of these chilies here, and I'm going to cut them crosswise like that. And you could do 1, you could do 1.5, you could do 2 of these guys. Sprinkle that there. I like to take a little bit of this pickling, sweet and sour pickling liquid, and drizzle that over everything. You can see already what an incredible sandwich this is. Okay, let me see if I can do this part of it here. I'm going to cut this beauty in half. Let's see, second half of it there. Okay. Wow. I'm going to put it onto this plate. This is a plate from Puebla. Okay, it's from Uriarte, one of the great old talavera making factories there in Puebla, and I couldn't think of a better way to present what I consider to be one of the best sandwiches in the world.